the altar. And with me on the line, I do have Sara Clarke, and she is from iKhayaleThemba that I spoke about earlier on. She's going to be telling us a little bit more about the work, the wonderful work that they are doing at iKhayaleThemba, ensuring that they equip young people with excellent education to ensure that they build upon a happy space in a sense through mentoring young kids after school. And she's going to be telling us a little bit more in detail as to what it is that they do. Sarah, how are you this afternoon?
Hi,
Thank you.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for joining us. iKhayaleThemba definitely caught my eye when I came across it on social media, and I thought, man, these kids look so happy. The pictures that you have of the kids, and just your mission and your vision really speaks to what it is that you are doing. And I thought, let's have this conversation. So, Sarah, if you could please give us a bit of a background about iKhayaleThemba and just the reason why it was established.
Yes, of course. So there was a group of amazing people that decided they wanted to invest in this community in Hout Bay. And their first thought was to open an orphanage. And one of the best things I think of part of our history is that they didn't just open an orphanage, they actually asked the community, what is it that you need and want? And the community responded by saying, we don't need an orphanage. We take care of our orphans,
Mm,
but we need the support with the extra workload that comes with adding to our families,
mm,
which is, with food and with education and time and space. And so that's how this model was born, this idea of being the family in the afternoon, where quite often caregivers are either at work or the space is unsuitable for children that just want to spread out and play.
mm,
We can be that home for them until they can go home, which is just after 5 o'clock.
mm. Definitely something that is needed in our communities because I think it alleviates many other, social ills that come from children being left to play in the streets, because mom and dad are at
Mhm.
work. Since inception, what would you say has been, the most significant difference that has come through Ikaele Temba?
So, yeah, that's a great question. The children actually spend a 6 year relationship with us, which is such a lovely thing for an NGO to be able to have access to, is this long term investment into a child's life. And so I can safely say that we've had um, feedback from schools and high schools where they say that they know when an Akaya child enters their school because of the character of the child. And that's such a lovely thing for them to be able to say, because we see it too. We love to invest in not only the skills of a child, but the character of a child as well, in terms of confidence and self esteem, and, just really knowing, for a child to know that they are seen and that they are
Mm,
worthwhile, and obviously that they're also known and loved by God as well, is at
mm,
the center of our values here.
mm. Wow. Uh, So, Sarah, looking at nutrition, I mean, that's the first thing that comes up that, you are equipping each child daily with nutrition to grow. So, when
Mm.
you speak about nutrition, I would just like you to maybe elaborate a little bit more in terms of, what nutrition is important for a child to develop and grow.
Yes, so if we look at the absolute basics of nutrition, and if you've had food stability your whole life, we can completely take this for granted. But this idea that a child cannot develop, but even they cannot even take on new information unless they have been fed. So this idea that a child can maybe go without for a few days and look fine, but the time that they do spend at school or any opportunities that they get in that time where they haven't had any food, is almost wasted opportunities, because that child, the body is not able to take on new information on an empty stomach. So in terms of calories, we're just making sure that the child is getting enough calories. But the real answer to the food crisis that we have here is not just giving anything, what's available. It's making sure that the child has all of the things that they need in order to develop. So in the research that others have done and that we've borrowed from, that it's really important for the child to have iron and protein and iodine in their diets. And so that's something that we strive to ensure, that we're not just giving the children a bowl of what we can find. We're carefully selecting the things that the children need in order to optimally grow and to feel well as well, to combat diseases and illnesses at the same time.
And what would you say have been, the needs? I think more especially, I'm going to go back to the global pandemic that we've faced with, COVID-19. During that time, what were the needs, and how were you able to fulfill the need of the child?
So yes, obviously the COVID pandemic really did exasperate needs that were already there in terms of food security, and also loneliness and things like that. The greatest gift that iKhaya could be to the community was to be the hub where people could come if they need, or could contact if they needed any advice for anything. But also, a little bit of positivity as well. But then also we did provide food bags as well for all of our families. We've got over 100 families represented
Wow.
here. And from that pandemic, what we noticed was this idea that, and it's there's been other research into it as well, that the only way we can combat poverty in the world is by growing food from the ground and eating what we grow. And so what we've really learned from that COVID pandemic was that we have been blessed by God with land. And so therefore we need to use the land to the greatest of our potential, but also teach the children the skills of like how to harvest food from the ground. And then because if you can eat what you grow, that basically enables the rest of your budget to go towards other opportunities. Your whole salary cannot just go towards your food if you want to take up other opportunities in life. So that's just been such a beautiful thing. So we now have actually a food garden that's over 400 square meters.
Wow.
Which is such a blessing. And for some of our mamas that are unemployed, they take absolute delight in helping in that food garden. And it all came from the COVID pandemic, this idea of what can we do with what we've got in this horrible time.
I love that it's a holistic approach, because you are getting, the mamas in the communities involved as well, who ideally perhaps could be sitting at home unemployed, but now there's something that they're doing, and in a sense, giving back to their community. You obviously, being a civil servant is yeah, a challenge. So I'm gonna go into that side of the work that you do in civil society. How has that been for you? And if you could give advice to someone else or another NGO in the same space, obviously doing something different, what would you say, has kept you going, has kept iKhayaleThemba going?
Okay, that's a big question, but it's such an important one. And I actually would suggest that the first piece of advice I would give is that you actually take time for yourself often on that question as an NGO, but also as a person. You know, you have to look at what is draining you and what is sustaining you as a person, but also as the organization. What is draining our organization? What is taking away our energy and or our funding, and but they're not sustaining us, you know? And so that's a process that we're actually going through at the moment, trying to really understand what is having the greatest impact and what is, you know, what is taking away some of our energy, which we could be better putting in other places. And so, yeah, just constantly asking yourselves that question and not getting into a funk of, well, this is just the way I do it. You know, being completely open and honest and having conversations of how, you know, should we be making changes and what changes, and those types of things are really helpful for yourself, but also as an NGO, especially as the NGO climate is changing. People are becoming a little bit suspicious of NGOs. And so we're really having to think of new ways of creating, you know, on the topic of fundraising, for example, creating ways of producing funds for the organization that doesn't just come from asking and asking and asking. You know, how can we generate our own income so that we are sustainable as well? That's just so important.
And now, Sarah, before I leave you, some growth ideas or strategies that you would like to implement going forward for iKhayaleThemba, and if you could please share your social media network, handles with us, please.
Yes, of course. So we are called on all the social media platforms iKhayaleThemba Project, which means the home of hope. And yeah, there are a few of the same names out there, so make sure you look for the one that's in Hout Bay. And in terms of our growth, the one big thing that we're wanting to focus on next year is for the emphasis on these children being known and seen by their world, by the people in their world. And what I mean by that is this call for locals. You know, we are blessed with a lot of international volunteers that come in for a period of time, but I want these children to be known, to know that they are valued by South Africa as well. And so, yeah, I would love the opportunity for any of your listeners to come and visit us and experience what we do here. And even that is just such an amazing part of giving back. You know, just the time spent is huge. So if you do follow us on social media, please know that you're not a stranger, and yeah, drop into the DMs and arrange that. That would be amazing.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Sara Clarke from iKhayaleThemba, based in Hout Bay. She has given us an open invite. If you'd like to come through and volunteer, have a meeting with her, you know, maybe give a little bit of your skill to the organization. I think that you would really appreciate that, Sarah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us here at 79K Pulpit. Nothing but God's grace, you know, for the journey that you're in. It is a difficult one, you know, to be in civil society, but it's definitely doable and it's necessary because if not iKhayaleThemba, then who? So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It means a lot of, you know, the fact that you are impacting the next generation of leaders in South Africa. So blessings to you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Family, there you have it. Sara Clarke, and she is from all the way iKhayaleThemba in Hout Bay, doing absolutely incredible.